All right, let me see. We should be good. Wow, it is the afternoon and we're up in here on a Friday. We're going to be here all day. It's great to be back on another YouTube live stream. Welcome, y'all. Welcome back to another YouTube live stream and another episode. Wow, excited to be here with y'all. Happy Friday. And hopefully you guys are having a great Friday as well. You got some great plans for this weekend. Looking forward to our show. We've got a lot to get into. Of course, we got some breaking news with what's going on with Kristi Noem being rehomed. Rhyming intentionally on that one. This is going to be an interesting conversation. And guys, I hate to say it, I predicted this, especially with the way that the Alex Preddy situation was handled. We're going to get into it here in a second. We've got other news about Chiron Moore, the former Michigan head coach. He's going to be back in court today. We're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in that situation. And we've got some interesting updates about the president of the United States potentially being able to serve a third term. It gets wild. We're going to get into it here in a second. But before we do, I have to say what's up to the people. Thank y'all for your patience and thank you to everybody who's in here. Listen, sometimes it just takes a minute to put together a great show. All right. Thank y'all for being patient. Of course, we've got my beautiful, awesome, amazing Amy in here doing what she does. And that's be amazing. Amy, thank you for all that you do. And y'all, Amy helps so much with the production of the show. So make sure y'all show her some love and support. Go subscribe to her channel, follow her on X. All the links are in the description for you to do that. We've got Jay Buckmaster in here on a Friday. A Fitz is in the building as well as so many of y'all in here saying good afternoon, good morning to everybody on the West Coast. And we're going to go ahead and get into it. Now, before we do, you all know that I'm going to beg you and ask you a favor, and that's that you like the video on your way in. Likes are free, helps the channel continue to grow, lets the algorithm know you guys are enjoying the show, shares the video, the channel, and this live stream specifically with more people. So thank you to the nearly 1,000 of y'all that have liked the video so far. My goodness, no pressure. We're just getting started. Y'all liked already, so thank you for the love. I probably won't ask again throughout the show because y'all have already shown so much support. So thank you there. If you're feeling extra generous, you can share the video as well. That's easy to do. Just click the share button and allow you to share the video to any social media platform you're on. And you can share it to a group chat via text message. Last but not least, I will be reading super chats at the end of the show. So thank you to everybody who supports and sends in the super chats and goes the extra mile in that way as well. Help keep the lights on here on the show. Let's go ahead and get into our first topic. We've got another situation with Kristi Noem. Yes, I called this. I predicted this. Kristi Noem has been rehomed. Now, some people are calling it fired. Other people are saying, oh, she just got moved. She got promoted. You guys, I'll let you make the decision on what you think is happening here. This is something I saw happening back when the whole Alex Preddy situation went down. The tragic situation with Alex Preddy being shot and killed in the streets during the protests there in Minneapolis. Now, Kristi Noem, we're going to do a little bit of a rewind and hear her take on this. Many of you saw it, and you saw it when we actually reacted to it here when it was breaking news. I heard what she had to say, and I instantly thought, wasn't the greatest take here, especially considering the president, the current president of the United States, is a Republican. There's a lot of things going on, a strong relationship with the NRA and gun rights in general, and coming out against us with a strong stance against somebody who was legally, allegedly carrying their weapon and how much ammo they were carrying, calling that person a domestic terrorist. Probably not the best idea. Either way, that's when I thought the situation just turned from bad to worse, but we'll look into it and do a little bit of research and see where actually things went wrong. Before we do, we're going to hear from Kristi Noem herself, giving her, I guess, concession memo. I don't know what you would even call this. And thank you for Amy for posting this over on X as well. If y'all don't follow her, check her out at @IamyLee on X. What did Kristi Noem have to say about being rehomed, relocated, giving a different position? She said this: "Thank you, President Trump, for appointing me as the special envoy for the Shield of the Americans." What in the world is that? Okay, that's her new position, apparently. Secretary Rubio and Secretary Hegseth are incredible leaders. I look forward to working with them closely to dismantle cartels that have poured drugs into our nation and killed our children and grandchildren. The Western Hemisphere is absolutely critical for U.S. security. In this new role, I will be able to build on the partnerships and national security expertise I forged over the last 13 months as Secretary of Homeland Security. We have made historic accomplishments at the Department of Homeland Security to make America safe again. We have delivered the most secure borders in American history. 3 million illegal aliens have left the U.S. We have located 145,000 children. FEMA delivered disaster relief at a 100% faster rate. We ushered in a golden age of travel, saved the American taxpayer $13 billion, and revitalized the U.S. Coast Guard. Sincerely yours, the secretary, well, former secretary, Christy Noem. I believe she's still the secretary. A lot of the issues she's having here and a lot of the reasons we're at this situation are because of what I mentioned with Alex Preddy, but there's also rumors about her being involved with the contractor. I mean, there's rumors, well, not rumors. She was being held accountable and facing a lot of heat for the way she was spending money, the government's money. And we're going to get into that in a second. But the president of the United States had this to say. Amy also posted this. And the president said on Truth Social, I am pleased to announce that the highly respected United States Senator from the great state of Oklahoma, Markwayne Mullin, will become the United States Secretary of Homeland Security, effective March 31st of 2026. The current secretary, Christy Noem, who has served us well and has had numerous and spectacular results, especially on the border, will be moving to the special envoy for the Shield of the Americans. That is quite the name. Our new security initiative in the Western Hemisphere, we are announcing on Saturday in Doral, Florida. I thank Christy for her service at Homeland. Serving 10 years in the United States House of Representatives and 3 in the Senate, Markwayne has done a tremendous job of representing the wonderful people of Oklahoma, where I won all 77 out of 77 counties. Okay, shout out to the president giving himself some props there. In 2016, 2020, and 2024, a MAGA warrior and former undefeated professional MMA fighter, I did not know that, Markwayne truly gets along well with people and knows the wisdom and courage required to advance our America First agenda. As the only Native American in the Senate, really, Markwayne is a fantastic advocate for our incredible tribal communities. Markwayne will work tirelessly to help keep our borders secure, stop migrant crime, murderers, and other criminals from illegally entering our country, end the scores of illegal drugs, and make America safe again. Markwayne will make a spectacular Secretary of Homeland Security. Thank you for your attention to this matter from the president. All right, so let's go back and see where this breakdown started to happen. Most recently, there was a House Judiciary Committee that met, and of course, they were holding Christy Noem accountable for several things. One was rumors that were being spread around that she was involved in an adult relationship with a contractor. I'm not going to get into that. It's rumors. Who knows? Who cares at this point? Then the second thing was actually her spending over $200 million on an ad campaign that she was featured in. Now, she went on to explain and talk about how she felt like this was a good thing and that the return they got on their investment was worth it, so on and so forth. But the biggest thing we're going to focus here, and the reason I think things started to go south with Christy Noem, was because of how she handled the Alex Preddy situation. So let's hear from the House Judiciary Committee about how they feel about what Christy Noem said about Alex Preddy and the Minnesota situation. Here we go.
Madam Secretary, were Renee Good and Alex Preddy domestic terrorists?
Congressman, what happened in Minnesota in those 2 incidents was an absolute tragedy.
Were they domestic terrorists, as you said to the country?
My condolences to their families, because I know that their lives will never be the same after that happened.
Is that an apology for what you said?
We, in those incidents, offer as much information as we can from officers and agents on the ground in a chaotic scene that gets.
I'll repeat my question, reclaiming my time. Based on what you know today, Madam Secretary, based on what you know today, were Renee Good and Alex Preddy domestic terrorists?
As you know, there's ongoing investigations that are being led by the FBI.
But you didn't wait for the investigation, did you? You didn't wait for the evidence. You proclaimed that they were domestic terrorists at the time. Why did you do that?
And you didn't wait to attack our law enforcement.
Why did you do that?
We're going into a dangerous situation.
Why did you call them domestic terrorists?
Because our ICE officers and our HSI officers that day risked their lives to protect that scene. So evidence could be reclaimed. So it could be used in the investigation. because those violent rioters that were
So you're
there
proud of the fact
would
that
have-
you called them domestic terrorists? Is that what you're telling America?
HSI officers put their lives on the line to protect that scene, so we could have.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. But you told a lie about them. You said that they were domestic terrorists. Do you regret that?
I offer my condolences to those family. And again,
Based on what
we'll
you
tell
know
them that
today,
when
were
the
Renee
chaotic
Good
scene
and
on the
Alex
ground,
Preddy domestic terrorists?
There's ongoing investigations, and so I
So
cannot.
you still don't know? You think that's an open question?
I would think you would want there to still be investigations going into these situations.
Well, you
We'll
stated the
continue to
conclusion 2 hours after they were killed that they were domestic terrorists. I wanted to give you an opportunity to correct the record, not just for their family, but for everybody in America who believes in the truth and fairness and honesty.
In every
Yeah, and they got the border guy out of there because he called him a domestic terrorist. And then, as I stated before, we heard Christy Noem say it, and I said, that's not great. She's going to be up out of there soon. Haven't been a fan of Christy Noem, but I'm not surprised that this happened.
situation, as facts come out, we relay.
You know,
them and
your acting
communicate
ICE
them to the
director,
family.
Todd Lyons, came before Congress. He said he had no knowledge whatsoever that Alex Preddy and Renee Good were domestic terrorists. None. This is your guy. He said that. He admitted that that was wrong. Why won't you admit it?
I'll tell you, the investigation's still ongoing, and we'll.
So do you regret speaking before the investigation?
I would say that in those situations.
You regret
the
that?
chaotic scene on the ground, we relay information to the American people that they're asking for. And as the.
Yeah, she lost. If you guys are wondering when this happened, I went back and found the video that we reacted to previously from a little over a month ago, where Christy Noem actually said that he was a domestic terrorist. It was not good.
Yes.
The White House has labeled the man who was killed in Minnesota as a domestic terrorist. Is that something you agree with? And have you seen any evidence?
When you perpetuate violence against a government because of ideological reasons and for reasons to resist and perpetuate violence, that is the definition of domestic terrorism. This individual who came with weapons and ammunition to stop a law enforcement operation of federal law enforcement officers committed an act of domestic terrorism. That's the facts.
Where's the evidence?
Dang. Oh, she messed up. She messed up. She should have let it go. She messed up. And again, shout out to Amy for posting this on X, because we actually get to hear from Christy Noem, and she gave her first speech since she had been replaced as the Secretary of Department of Homeland Security. See what she had to say.
Governments derive their powers from the consent of the governed, which is the people. The people give us the right to do our jobs each and every day. And as long as this world is fractured and as long as human nature is fallen, we will need brave men and women who step up and serve and enforce our rights and our laws and our values. And that's what all of you do in this room with your colleagues. The heroism was on full display this last week when we saw the attack in Austin, Texas, and we saw that the first responders that helped protected people and more lives there were our law enforcement that responded immediately. Instead of running away, they ran to it. And though we lost 3 lives and saw many other people injured, they prevented so many other lives from being lost. We're very grateful that they are willing to do that and to serve in such a way. In fact, it reminded me of the quote that is often attributed to George Orwell that states, "People sleep peacefully, men stand ready to do violence on their behalfs," which means you step up in order to protect people, and you do it in a way that other people often are never going to be required to. When tragedies like what we saw in Austin take place, it's your leadership and it's your decision making that make all the difference. You use judgment, and we entrust people entrust you with their lives. You're on the front lines of leadership, and you have the responsibility of guiding and also shaping the next generation. So we thank you for that, and we thank you for what you do. I know that I've met many of you in the room. I've had the chance to visit with you. I appreciate your wisdom and your advice as we continue to develop trainings and insight into how leadership can work together to make good decisions and to break down the silos between agencies so that we can work together more different, in better ways than we have in the past. And you know, we're seeing challenges across the country from judges and courts that are working to stop some of our efforts, that are looking to take away some of the protections that you need in law to do your work. And then also we're seeing some challenges from sanctuary states and sanctuary cities. In fact, after I get done sharing a few more words, I want to hear your questions on ways that we can help you do your jobs. If you're in a situation where the laws may be a little different than it is in other states, or you may have unique challenges that perhaps we could work together on to find ways to help you bring criminals to justice and to protect your community from public safety threats. America is the greatest country in the world, And it's the greatest country in the world that has great cities and great communities. Regardless of where people live, we need to make sure that they have an opportunity to go to work every day safely and to send their kids to school safely every day. Sanctuary cities do give us a challenge because it makes it difficult at times for law enforcement to do their work. And we see that many times when a city cooperates with the federal government, cooperates with our federal officers, that it is safer. In fact, 7 of our top 10 safest countries in the nation are not sanctuary cities. They're cities where the local law enforcement partners with us. They partner with our federal agents.
Okay, that's enough of that. Either way, she's continuing on, and this is what she's going to do, I guess, with her new role. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments in the chat. Kristi, saw this one coming. It's unfortunate for her, maybe, but I wasn't a fan in the first place, so we'll have to see how this goes. Shout out to the gang, man. Thank you to everybody who's in the building. Are y'all gonna miss Kristi? Are y'all gonna miss her? Again, I wasn't a fan initially. I think there were several blunders that were made, and then you've got a lot of the rumors that were being told on top of that. It's just you cut your losses. You said I'm muted? I should not be muted. I think that might be y'all. But thank you, Jay, for having my back. The sound looks good over there. So you might have either paused or turned the sound down or something. Thank you for having my back, though. Thank you to everyone who's in here again. I appreciate every single one of y'all that have liked the video so far. We're almost at 1,000 likes, which is crazy. All right, let's go ahead and get into our next topic. I got to update this. We're going to get into what's happening with Chiron Moore. And we've actually talked about this entire situation and trial before. I'm going to get into it and give you guys an update here in a second, because the interesting thing about the Chiron Moore case is a lot of the evidence was pointing to the fact that he was guilty. If you don't remember or don't know who Chiron Moore was, we addressed it initially in another video I'll leave in the description for you guys. But it's being alleged that this man, Chiron Moore, was having an affair with someone he worked for or worked with at the school. He had an affair with this woman. There's back and forth. They were going to break up. He went crazy. And either his wife found out, or it's a whole messy situation. He went over to this woman's house, and then he tried and attempted to assault her. She called the police, and now he ended up arrested. So in this situation, we're hearing a lot of different things that are going on, with the evidence being an issue in this case, and actually the judge ruling in Chiron Moore's favor when it comes to a lot of the things that are being said behind what actually happened at the crime scene. So we're going to hear an update of what's going on with the evidentiary hearing, and then we'll hear what's going to take place in this hearing today. Check this out from Detroit News 4. Here we go.
But we begin with breaking news we're following in Ann Arbor.
I believe there is not probable cause to support these charges.
Former Michigan coach Chiron Moore back in court as his lawyers fight to get the charges against him thrown out. And that hearing wrapped up here just in the past 15 minutes or so.
The judge ordered an evidentiary hearing in this case. That's a big win for Moore. Lauren Kostick was in the courtroom for that hearing. All right, so Lauren, boil this all down for us.
Yeah, this was definitely a big win for Chiron Moore and his defense attorney. And to be clear, his charges were not thrown out. Instead, the judge did grant an evidentiary hearing to gather more information, more evidence in this case. And a key sticking point was the working relationship between Chiron Moore and the victim, which the judge that granted this arrest warrant back in December was not made aware of. And the judge here says that is important context when it comes to the number of calls and texts that Chiron Moore made during that time frame. So take a look. Yeah. This is Chiron Moore walking into court this morning here in Washtenaw County, accompanied by his attorney again, Ellen Michaels. And if you remember last month, Michaels asked the court to dismiss charges against Moore, arguing his arrest warrant was based on misleading information, specifically the omission of the employee to employer relationship. But the prosecution argues there's more than enough evidence to justify these charges, including the stalking charge. And here's what both sides had to say in court.
During these days in question, there was communications that were legitimate. And if the communications were legitimate, it is not harassment. And if it's not harassment, it's not stalking.
Interesting.
And even after he left, then called her, as is witnessed on body cam, called her yet again, and sent her 2 more texts. I hate you, and my blood is on your hands.
Dang.
And again, the judge did agree to an evidentiary hearing that is scheduled for March 2nd at 9 a.m. He called this a glaring omission when it comes to getting the arrest warrant, that the judge should have known more about the victim and Chiron Moore's relationship when it came to the employer and employee relationship. Again, March 2nd is that date back here in the courtroom. He'll be back here in person. We'll have to wait to see what happens. But during that hearing, we could hear from the victim's attorney, also the responding officers, and the detective that asked for this arrest warrant. So really a big win here for him today. We're now live in Ann Arbor. Lauren Kostick, Local 4.
Okay, so that hearing actually got moved, and now we're going to hear that he is in court today and what exactly is going to go down in that hearing. We're going to cover this, and I'll give you guys an update on who spoke during that hearing, if the victim showed up, and what's going to take place as a result of that. These charges get dropped for him. I mean, it could be pretty vindicating for Chiron Moore. I mean, this guy lost millions and millions and millions of dollars in contracts just because this situation came out. So we'll be interested to see what happens. Check this out from, again, News 4.
Meanwhile, former Michigan football head coach Chiron Moore is back in court as his attorney tries to get the criminal case against him thrown out. Moore was fired by the University of Michigan in December after the school found he had an inappropriate relationship with a staff member. Hours later, prosecutors say he went to the staffer's apartment, went in without permission, and threatened to harm himself.
Yeah.
He now faces charges including felony home invasion, stalking, and breaking and entering. But Moore's attorneys say the arrest warrant that started the case was based on incomplete and misleading information. They argue police never told the judge the woman was executive assistant, and that some of the calls and messages prosecutors describe as stalking may actually have been work-related communication. Now, the judge agreed there may have been key omissions in the warrant request and granted today's hearing to examine how investigators built the case and whether Moore's rights were violated. If the judge finds the warrant was improperly obtained, some or all of the charges against Moore could be dismissed.
That would be
if not,
amazing.
of course, the case would, again, him move forward. Okay. Now, we really wanted to get into what's at stake at today's hearing and how we got here. We want to talk to you, Todd Flood, with Flood Law. There's a lot of questions here. Now, first off, and can you describe what this hearing is, just sure, for those who haven't been following this case as closely as we have?
This is some good lawyering. So the lawyer basically said, hey, judge, go behind the warrant. What was the swear to by this police officer? And did the police officer omit or lie as it relates to material facts about stalking? Her whole thing is, if you don't have stalking, you don't have a home invasion felony count. And the communications, that's what was left out potentially. That's what was left out in the warrant and the swear to in front of the judge, because those communications were consensual or were work-related. So if I were the defense attorney, I would put either the officer on the stand or I'd put the complainant on the stand. I think you could probably forecast here, based on what I've read and what you've seen, this is going to be a deal. It's just so powerful.
Really?
Yeah, it's just so powerful, the writing, and to call it out the way it is. We predicted a while ago that maybe this gets reduced down to something, but not a felony. Because if, the coach wasn't stalking her, then you don't have that misdemeanor, that underlying charge to get you the home invasion.
And I know you kind of just touched on this now, but the judge, so again, the judge is specifically looking for, on both sides during this hearing.
Right.
What does this judge need to hear?
Judge needs to hear that the credibility of the officer that went in front of the magistrate and raised his hand and took an oath, that he either omitted or mischaracterized what the evidence was to get an arrest warrant on a felony. If that police officer did that potentially, the case, the home invasion felony, is thrown out. The underlying charge would be the EWOP, entering without owner's permission. That's a 93-day misdemeanor. That's what you can forecast that that's probably where this case is going, because I think Ellen Michaels just did a phenomenal job in going behind all of this, working through everything, getting the text messages to show, did the complainant ever complain that he was stalking him or her? You know, that's a big deal. She writes in her papers that he didn't. And it's right there in black and white.
Now, it'll be interesting because I think this is going to be the difference between Mr. Moore never getting a job again and possibly getting a job at some level. Because if this was just we'll call a domestic dispute, and if he just walked into the house without her wanting him to be there, then that's going to fare a lot better for him than, say, him facing multiple felonies. So I want to know what you guys think about this in the comments in the chat. We're going to continue to follow this as the hearing takes place today and give you an update on who actually spoke and what the judge's decision is going to be. Let me know what you guys think. And thank y'all again. We got over 6,000 of you in the building. Appreciate every single one of y'all being here. And thank you again for liking the video. I said I wasn't going to keep begging because y'all are doing such a good job of liking the video. So I'll leave it alone. And we'll get right into our next subject here because we've got a lot to cover today. Something I had been mentioning over the past couple of days and specifically this week is what's been going on with the updates in this FBI raid. We heard that the Board of Commissioners met for the first time and they talked a little bit about it, but not so much. We got to more so hear from the people holding them accountable and saying, hey, y'all didn't do the right thing, and stop trying to play victim and blaming everybody else for your decisions. Now we're going to get into, if I could find her, Stacy Abrams is here somewhere. We're going to talk about Stacy Abrams, and she's going to give her thoughts on this. Now, we've heard from Raphael Warnock, we've heard from John Ossoff and multiple others when it comes to this FBI raid in the Fulton County Elections Office pertaining to the 2020 election. A lot went down in the 2020 election, especially here in Georgia. Y'all know of Warnock, Ossoff, and even now we're going to hear from Stacy Abrams, who's going to talk about how this FBI raid could not only impact the voting here in Fulton County in Georgia, but the nation, and also get into the conversation we've had with Janelle King about nationalizing elections. Check this out from MS Now.
We are now just 257 days from the midterm elections, and Donald Trump hit the campaign trail today in Georgia with two main themes. First theme, my tariffs are amazing, you're welcome. And we need to stop Democrats from voting so Republicans can stay in power for 50 years.
Oh, gosh.
Trump, whose popularity is as low as ever in his second term, knows he has got a big problem on the issue of affordability. And in Georgia, he visited a factory and a local business to try and rally the faithful, all while harping on, you guessed it, his conspiracy theory about the 2020 election. This coming after his FBI raided and seized ballots from the election office of the state's largest county, Fulton County, and after Trump suggested that the state should take over elections in that county. This is the campaign message he delivered at the Varsity Restaurant today in Rome, Georgia.
And they came in, they took all those ballots, all those crooked ballots were taken. Let's see what happens. And the Democrats are fighting like hell. They don't want anyone to see those ballots. Did you see that? Let's see what happens.
We loved it.
It's a disgrace, but what are you going to do? We're cleaning it up. Who likes voter ID?
Yes.
Stacey Abrams is a former Democratic candidate for governor in Georgia. She is the founder of Fair Fight Action and the host of Crooked Media's podcast, Assembly Required. And she joins me now. Stacey, it's so good to see you.
So she's a podcaster
your name
now.
Came up. We've been watching this thing pretty closely at the Fulton County Election Board meeting when one of the members aligned with Donald Trump said, and this is a quote, "We are here because our election has been in question for a long time." And she brought up your run for governor in 2018. Your reaction to what's been going on at the Board of Elections?
Stacy, be honest. Don't play left or the right side. Be honest, Stacy. Come on. We know you saw it. We all saw it. Let's see what she said.
I think it's important for us to understand that this is not about 2020. This is a pretext. The 2020 election has been investigated by Democrats, Republicans, by every department you can imagine. They know that election was free and fair, but what they think they can do is use this as a pretext to seize records to which the federal government is not entitled, and they will use those records to challenge voters, to intimidate them, and to preemptively disqualify them.
Stacey,
because
come
Georgia
on.
has one of the preeminent Senate races in 2026. This is also a test run for what they've tried to do across the country, which is force states to abandon their constitutional responsibility for managing elections and give that information to a federal government that is in the midst of an authoritarian takeover. And
Stacy, dang. Yep, she went left. So disappointing. Stacy, you were affected by this. You don't have to be loyal to one side. You're a podcaster now. Just tell the truth. This election was rigged. It was messed up. There was fraud. Oh, I won't say the election. Maybe that's taking it too far. There was fraud. We know there was fraud. We've seen it. We talked about it at length, and we're going to continue to talk about it even going into next week. Got a special guest for y'all that's going to come into the show and talk about it as well. But Stacy, we're not blind. Come on. We've seen the evidence. We've seen the missing ballots, the duplicate ballots, the audits that had 3 different numbers. Let's just be honest here.
Give that information to a federal government that is in the midst of an authoritarian takeover. And so while they will use the easy layup of saying something about 2020, this is all about 26 and 28 and their attempt to destroy democracy.
Yeah, you're so right. What he said today, again, they came in and they took all those ballots, all those crooked ballots were taken. They love a pretext. They loved a pretext when they went out to all these different cities and said that they needed to invoke potentially the Insurrection Act because riotous mobs were in the streets protesting over immigration policies. I saw myself that was a complete
This guy does not like this administration.
As it comes to elections in Georgia, there's been concern that the state board was going to try to take over, at the president's suggestion, Fulton County's elections board. But that didn't actually happen today. What's your level of concern that potentially could still happen?
Well, Jacob, what you just laid out is an important piece of knowledge for us to all hold. This is a country that is in the midst of an authoritarian takeover. There are 10 steps to authoritarianism, and we have hit all 10 steps. But step 10 is destroying democracy for everyone. And you do that by changing the rules, by redistricting. You do that by intimidating voters, by disqualifying voters. You do that by seizing the operations of elections. And while they may have failed today to take over Fulton County's elections, they're not going to stop. But I think it's important for people to see Georgia not as a singularity, but as an example. Georgia has had this level of voter suppression attempted before, and we have been able to fight it back, which is why they're so angry. But it's also why Pam Bondi said to Governor Tim Walz, if you will just hand over your voting records, we'll pull ICE out. Right. We have a program that we call the 10.
Can we talk about why that deal has to be made in the first place? God, if there's nothing there, why can't you just hand over the records, make copies and give it to them? You don't even have to give them the boxes. We've been through this. And now the FBI's in mediation with Fulton County, trying to figure out how they're going to work and come together on this. Why can't they just hand it over and show them in the first place? We've seen Voter Georgia. We've talked to a state election board member, Janelle King, about this. We've seen over and over and over and over information that should be readily available not being given to the people. It's not that complicated. Why should the attorney general of the freaking United States have to say, yeah, we'll take ICE out if you just let us see your voter rolls? What is going? Why? Why is it such a big deal? It's not about democracy. It's not about authoritarianism. It's because there is something there and someone's trying to hide what actually happened. Amy said she annoys me. Me too. Come on, Stacy. They're not gonna help you. It's over. Just be honest. Jeez, man.
10 Steps campaign. And we encourage people to go to 10stepscampaign.org because this is all of a piece. You don't need to declare martial law. You just need to break our election system if you want to stay in power. And this is the entire goal of this administration and this Republican regime.
There was this extraordinary reporting yesterday from our colleagues here at MS Now about the fact that they could end up having DHS agents, long rumored, but now it appears to be a plan that is at least potentially in motion outside of polling places at locations around the country during the midterm elections. It was something that every one of these Democratic governors had said to me that they were concerned about as I went from state to state during the ICE raids. It's so interesting to see how it's been playing out in Georgia. All of those people showing up at that John Ossoff rally after the Fulton County raids was really an extraordinary thing to witness. I wonder what you're looking at now as we get closer to these midterms. And I, to me, it certainly looks like people
they're looking for excuses.
All these days out are showing up because of what's happening in Fulton County at this very minute.
Listen, let's not blame the people waking up let's not blame what's going on with the Republican Party and what's going on with the Democratic Party specifically on anything other than the people waking up. Don't try and make it something that it isn't. People are waking up. They're seeing the BS that's going on. And again, I don't want to do the political thing. Maybe I just need to get over it and go the political route. Y'all seen the BS, specifically in this case, that has been done and been spoken by the Democratic Party. And people are tired. They're just tired of it. We even heard from Janelle King, a state election board member here in Georgia, that said, listen, they saw the numbers dropping from nearly 100% down to 85% when Biden was up there. And they said, oh, man, we got to figure out something. I don't know. I guess the only thing we could do is bring more voters in here. And then you saw the flood of people coming into this country without proper documentation, trying to get votes. Then we see all the issues with the voting system and who's pushing to just leave those things intact. Forget about it. Don't make a big deal about it. Brad Raffensperger, I've done investigations and they were fine, even though the numbers were off. So guys, people are waking up and we're going to continue to talk about it here. We're tired of it. We're tired of being lied to. And we're tired of these people pretending like nothing happened and there's nothing there. Come on, man.
It's what we saw in 2018 when we added 800,000 voters who had not previously participated. That wasn't all voter registration. We had an increase in voter registration, but at 800,000 new people who voted in the Democratic side of the tally in 2018, those were people who watched the governor, then Secretary of State, attempt to throttle their vote. Voter suppression has three parts. Can you register and stay on the rolls? Can you cast a ballot? And does that ballot get counted? And the more we watch this Republican authoritarian regime try to take away the right to vote, the more people are going to fight to use it. And I think it's really important that they do three things. One, call your senators and tell them to vote against the SAVE Act, especially if you live in Maine. Susan Collins, who knows better, has now signaled that she is willing to support a law that would disenfranchise millions of voters and put the responsibility on voters instead of the government. Number two, we need folks to support voting rights organizations wherever they are. And number three, make sure you vote in primaries. They're not going to wait until November to try to steal elections. They're not going to wait until November to break the machinery. They're going to practice during primaries. So we've got to show up in force every time there's a vote so we can make certain they hear our voices.
Well, I'll be doing my part. I'll be out there at the Texas primary election in a couple of weeks' time. And, we'll be watching that very closely. Stacy.
It's interesting because, as I mentioned, we had Janelle King on the show earlier in the week. And with this whole situation with the SAVE Act, we went through and broke down exactly, specifically, why this is something that would be beneficial. You can go and do your own research and look at it. There's a lot of things that are in the SAVE Act that are actually going to help and make voting easier for people. So saying that, oh, they're trying to suppress your vote and make it more difficult. I wonder why there's a certain side that feels this way, because what does that say about the Democratic side of things when it comes to them pushing that things should just remain how they are? The voting system's fine. The registration system's fine. The opt-out system is just fine. Just leave it the way it is. Does that mean the only way that the Democratic Party can win is if these faulty systems stay in place? Is that how they feel? Because I find it extremely hard to believe that they're concerned about constitutional rights when most of them are championing Don Lemon running up into a church and harassing people while they're worshiping. Either way, those are two different things. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments in the chat. Rest assured, Janelle King is coming back to the show, and I will be asking her thoughts on what Stacy Abrams had to say. So make sure y'all stay tuned in for that. What a situation. Yeah, I mean, is the only way they can win cheating? Like, no, we have to keep it the same. Let people get a driver's license and just put the responsibility on them to read and make sure that they say they don't want to be registered because they're not in this country legally. Or let me change that, because they're not legally allowed to vote. Stacey Abrams said the SAVE Act is going to make it and put the responsibility on the people. No, well, what does that mean about the opt-out system? Opt-out literally means that you have to opt out. If you don't, you're a part of this. So I don't know if she's just being disingenuous or if she's being a loyalist to one side. But this isn't about left or right side. This is about what's right. And saying that the opt-out system, which basically gives you the right to vote regardless of who you are, is not putting more responsibility on the people. I don't know what it is. It's crazy. Voter ID has been required in Georgia for 20 years. Nobody would be disenfranchised. It's pretty straightforward. Why are y'all so against voter ID? I don't understand. I don't get it. Come on, Stacy. And she doesn't benefit from this take either. I think that's the strangest thing. It's like, Stacy, just be honest. You were affected by this. You were here in Georgia. You saw what happened. It's all right. We're going to get into it. So we've got to get into another interesting topic when it comes to politics and voting specifically. We got to talk about Jasmine Crockett and the meltdown that's happened as a result of her losing this primary. She's upset. We're going to hear a video from her where she talks about it and how she still feels like this was stolen. Then we're going to hear from one of my favorite, probably my favorite governor in the entire nation, Greg Abbott, about this Jasmine Crockett situation and how he's glad that she's gone, along with many other people. So y'all see the meme here I have on the camera with Jasmine Crockett dancing in Popeye's uniform. Y'all think she would make it at Popeye's? Let me know. Let's hear what Jasmine Crockett had to say after her loss was officially announced. She's upset.
No one.
Oh, Jasmine. Oh, come on.
I gotta get through this. 6 years ago, no one believed that I could become a state representative.
Yeah, I mean, y'all still believe it happened? I don't know. Some of us don't. And actually, Jasmine Crockett isn't the only one capitalizing off of this conversation. We're going to hear from the former president of the United States, Barack Obama, speaking on what's going on with voting in our country as a result of seeing Jasmine Crockett just become victim to what happens and how these voting systems work. I don't know which side these people fall on. I mean, do we support the SAVE Act? Do we not support the SAVE Act? Do we believe that the voting system needs to be corrected and fixed? Is it fine the way it is? I don't know what these people want. I'm confused. Barack Obama says this: free and fair elections are the cornerstone of our democracy. But right now, they're under attack. Just right now? President Obama, where have you been the past 4 years? 6 years? What year is it? 2026? Where was this conversation 5 years ago? Oh, I guess it wasn't benefiting the other side now. So we're talking about it now. He says several Republican controlled states have redrawn their congressional maps to give themselves an unfair advantage in the midterm elections. Guys, we're going to be talking about this next week. So hang on. We're going to explain this whole situation. Now, Virginia has a chance to help level the playing field. If you live in the Commonwealth, early voting begins March 6th and election day is on April 21st. Vote yes. He's going to tell us what he's talking about.
Free and fair elections are the cornerstone of our democracy, but right now they are under threat. Over the past year, several Republican-controlled states have taken the unprecedented step of redrawing their congressional maps in the middle of the decade. And they've done it for a simple reason.
It's rough out
to
here.
Give themselves an unfair advantage in the midterms this fall. In April, Virginians can
victims,
respond by
guys.
making sure your voting power is not diminished by what Republicans are doing in other states. This amendment gives you the power to level the playing field in the midterms this fall. And voters will have the final say over what the maps look like. This is the responsible thing to do. It's also a temporary measure. After the 2030 census, Virginia will go back to a system that lets a bipartisan redistricting commission redraw the maps.
We're going to talk about that later. Don't worry.
Unchecked power and zero accountability in Washington. Help us chart a better path forward, Virginia. Early voting begins on March 6th. Election day is April 21st.
Oh my gosh.
Vote yes, Virginia. To get involved, go to virginiansforfairelections.com.
Listen, man, you know they're worried when they bring Obama out. When Obama comes out, you know things are bad. Y'all better get out and vote or Michelle's going to get you, like he said. I mean, the president has been in office for how many months has it been now? 14, 15, 16 months. And it's like all panic. We have to panic. The system's messed up. Guys, get ready. The whole country is going south. It has been 15 months and it's just been this drastic, dramatic change. I won't even give the president that much credit for everything that's happened over the 15 months because it's just too early. But no, we are. Things are going south and we just have to, it's all hands on deck, according to the president of the United States, well, former president of the United States. Now we're going to hear from Greg Abbott about Jasmine Crockett. Now, as a result of what happened, call it what you will, is out of her position and out of the race because he's running a little bit of a victory lap here. And it's clear that he couldn't stand Jasmine Crockett in the first place. Check this out.
Joining us now, someone who won their primary big time last night.
82%.
Not with 71% of the vote, but by 71 points. Oh, boy.
Good
82%
grief.
of the vote. Our friend, Greg Abbott, is with us. Well, 82
I like this guy.
is okay, I guess. I mean, you know, not bad, Governor. Congratulations. God bless Texas.
Thank you, Sean, very much.
Oh, man.
All right. I had no earthly idea how crazy Tellerico was. I can't imagine. I think he's more radical left than Jasmine Crockett. I think I was pulling for the wrong person. I should have pulled for Tellerico. I'm actually happy he won. With those values that we just went over, how could he possibly win?
Well, first of all, let's go back, Sean, because I think Jasmine Crockett was actually ahead in the polls until Kamala endorsed her. And that's when
that's a good point.
Jasmine.
How can you not love this guy? Greg Abbott, man. I hope he runs for president one day. I don't think he's going to leave Texas, though. This man, he's got it figured out. He's good. It's hilarious. He said, dang, Jasmine was doing good until Kamala Harris stepped in. Dang. Until she started dancing to Kendrick Lamar. Yo, that's wild.
Exactly. Crockett began going downhill after that. But listen, because Tellerico's won, because this is no longer a fight between Democrat versus Democrat, he's been exposed for all the leftist policies that he stood for. As you point out, listen, he's maybe one of the far most radical leftists in the United States. He makes Tim Walz look normal. I can tell you, you talked about some things that have surfaced online today, and trust me, there'll be a whole lot more coming out in the coming days. But important, look at his votes. He's voted to defund the police, voted for open border policies, voted for boys and girls schools and or sports. And very important to Texas voters know this. He voted to deny a income tax reduction in the state of Texas. He voted against property tax cuts. He voted in favor of a state income tax. He would be detrimental to the state of Texas and Washington, D.C.
Governor, what do you make of the president when he put out his truth post today that he will endorse either the current Senator Cornyn or Ken Paxton? I know he's fond of both of them. He said he will make the endorsement soon and asked the candidate he doesn't endorse to immediately drop out. It's already been a pretty nasty race, one of the most expensive primaries. I like the idea in principle. Do you think that they will agree to abide by that?
You know, it's a good question, Sean, that obviously I have no clear answer to. I think what the president's trying to achieve is, for one, try to bring a swift resolution to the primaries in the state of Texas so that Republicans can focus on primaries in other parts of the country. But also, I think that Republicans in the state of Texas would like to resolve it themselves. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. And if he makes an endorsement, obviously, he's the most popular Republican in the state of Texas. So his endorsement will carry great weight.
I think you're up there, too. 82% of the vote last night was pretty impressive, Governor.
That's very impressive.
I don't think you're going to have a tough race. I don't care if you had Jasmine Crockett, Tellerico, and whoever you're going to run against together, they couldn't beat you. Thank God, because you've done a great job for the people of Texas.
I agree.
We really appreciate you, Governor. Thank you. Hey, Sean Hannity here.
Shout out to Greg Abbott. One of my favorite governors in the nation. I think he's done an amazing job with Texas, and he made a fair point about Jasmine Crockett. The way she ran her campaign, it just wasn't enough. It didn't work. And it was looking like she was ahead at the beginning, according to their polls. Things fell apart. What do you guys think is going to be next for Jasmine Crockett? I see her potentially, I don't know, maybe doing a podcast, maybe working on somebody else's campaign, being some type of consultant. She could even be on YouTube. Maybe we'll get her on the show and find out what happened. Just as long as she doesn't come to Atlanta. All right. We already got. I'm not even going to talk about who's here in Atlanta, who we recently came to Atlanta. If y'all want to know, I talked about it in another video. Let me know what you think about this in the comments in the chat. Oh, man, we don't need any more. Tiffany Henyer's here. Jasmine Crockett, don't you come over here. I'll make some phone calls. We gotta get her up out of here. Podcast. Y'all think she's gonna be a podcaster? Ted Cruz for SCOTUS. That's the word on the street. Also, we're hearing Marco Rubio running for president, possibly in 2028. How would that work? How would that work? Would it be vice president and Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz on the Supreme Court, J.D. Vance Rubio? That has a nice little ring to it. How do y'all feel about that? On either side, let me know what you think. Thank you for the over 1,000 likes. Y'all amazing. Absolutely amazing. I appreciate it. It helps us out so much. So thank y'all for the support. Let's get into... That's actually the wrong title. We're not going to get into Pat Labat yet. We got to talk about what's going on here in Fulton County. We saw this whole drama play out in Fulton County during the Board of Commissioners meeting earlier this week, and we've got some more updates for you guys here. I got to put... Where's Sheriff Labat up here? I don't think I got a picture of him, actually. So we'll have to put Rob Pitts on the screen. Where is Uncle Rob? He's over there somewhere. Either way, we've been addressing and talking about what's been going on with the situation with the Board of Commissioners, and specifically what's happened between the Board of Commissioners and Fulton County. And now I like Vance Rubio 2028. We might have called it. Y'all remember, come back to this video in about 2 years. Well, it'll really be a year and a half, which is crazy. Come back to this video in about a year and a half, and we'll see if I was right on my prediction. Vance Rubio is looking right. It might be the other way around, though. We'll have to wait and see. Either way, let's get into it. So we recently reviewed a Board of Commissioners meeting that took place right here in Fulton County, led by the chairman, Rob Pitts. And there was an interesting case here where Rob Pitts basically came up with his own plan, his own 5-point plan to change the overcrowding of the Fulton County Jail, specifically Rice Street, which we've covered here on the channel at length and at nauseum, especially considering the light that was shined on the issue, or shown, excuse me, on the issues in Rice Street Prison during the YSL trial. So now Rob Pitts comes up with this brilliant idea of how we can make changes in the Fulton County Jail. The points sound amazing, but during the meeting, the sheriff of Fulton County gets up there and said, no one told me about this plan. It sounds good, I guess, but I didn't know anything about it. Now, many of you know how I feel about this topic, and specifically about Pat Labat when it comes to how things are being handled in the Fulton County Jail situation. Already had to get the DOJ involved. They made him and forced him come up with a plan of how he was going to make improvements in the jail. We haven't seen or heard of that. The deadline's well past, so I would assume that he's working the Department of Justice on this. Now we're going to hear from Patrick Labat about how he felt when the chairman of the Board of Commissioners came out with this 5-point plan, which he had no idea existed. Check this out from Atlanta News First.
Well, tonight, the Fulton County Sheriff sounding off with pointed words for county leaders after a new plan was passed to reduce the jail population.
And Sheriff Pat Labat told Atlanta News First senior reporter Patrick Quinn that he was kept in the dark about this plan.
Poor guy.
We have to quit the political grandstanding and really, in earnest, try and help people in need.
A day after Fulton County passed a 5-point plan to reduce the overcrowding inside the Fulton County Jail, Sheriff Pat Labat, missioned to oversee the jail, said he was kept in the dark before the vote.
Nobody in my agency, no one in the sheriff's office knew what the 5-point plan was.
And he threw Rob Pitts under the bus too. He stepped up to the mic. He was talking to Mo Ivory. No, I believe he was talking to another board member. And he said, hey, listen, no one from my office. I haven't seen this plan. We don't know what's going on, but hey, I guess it sounds good. And even with all of that, the Board of Commissioners still passed and signed off on this plan, which is absolutely hilarious. I mean, Pat, if you didn't know, I can't blame you, but what are we doing now? because we've already heard of situations right here in Fulton County where the jail, there were 70 plus people sleeping on the floor just over the past couple of weeks. 70, not 7, not 7.5, 70 people. So again, what are we doing to work on that? Maybe we'll hear something from the sheriff here.
This 5-point plan calls to move more detainees to the diversion center, add more to the county ankle monitoring program, use text notifications to remind offenders of court appearances, drop the bond amounts, and extradite non-local offenders to their jurisdiction where they face charges. Right now, there are nearly 3,000 people in the county's custody, with 58 people sleeping on the ground at the jail due to overcrowding. Sheriff Labat said he's already doing 3 of the 5 points in this plan and called it a neutral step in addressing the long-standing crisis at the Fulton County Jail.
I think so many right now in Atlanta and across Fulton County are tired of being neutral.
I absolutely agree with you.
How do we get out of neutral?
Well, you got to trust the people that were elected to do their jobs. And so whether it be the clerk, right? Whether it be the actual Solicitor General, the DA, and certainly me.
What are we going to do with the next person that dies in the jail?
Fulton County Commissioner Khadija Abdurrahman, a co-sponsor of this plan, approved with a 4-3 margin, said it's time for the county to act. Since 2021, 32 people have died in the county's custody.
The time for talking is over.
Another commissioner, Marvin Arrington Jr., said Chairman Rob Pitts and others were playing politics in proposing this plan during an election year.
Or nor speaking to the sheriff. I know, and you are too. You're out of order by not contacting the sheriff.
Sheriff Labat said
Dang, the fact that these people fight amongst each other is hilarious, but I get it, that's part of the deal. Listen, if we're going to pretend like politics isn't a part of this, I think that would be disingenuous. We know politics are a part of it, but there is a real problem and a real issue here. And if the plan has some solutions that will work, put in place. Who cares if it's about politics or not? Will it work? That's the question.
The outbursts and jabs between commissioners gets in the way of progress and truly addressing the jail crisis.
It does. And worse than getting in the way of progress, that type of theater encourages the county manager to not return my phone calls.
Is he not?
And so, no, he's absolutely not.
And now he's missioned with this 5-point
correct.
plan.
Patrick Quinn, Atlanta News First.
All right, so we're actually going to get into the full interview that the sheriff did, where he just talks about what's going on here in Fulton County, and maybe we'll get some insight there in the next video. But for now, I thought this was an interesting point. One of the board members, Mo Ivory, actually went and bailed out some people who were sleeping on the floor in Rice Street. So we got to give her a round of applause for that. Very well done by her. Hopefully she did some research into what the charges were. But some of these people who are being held in Rice Street are there because they owe $85, less than $100, many even less than $1,000 on bond for non-violent crimes, trespassing, shoplifting, etc. And maybe some of them, they just don't have the money. Now, you could ask and could question, should they be released anyway? Or is it just that we need to update and get more room and have the facilities updated to house these people? Because again, what are the crimes? Are they repeat offenders? Those statistics we don't know, but we do know there's several things here that seem like they could be an easy fix, and Mo Ivory is actually acting on this. So check this story out from Fox 5 here in Atlanta.
A move by one lawmaker that has caused some social media attention, posting bail for 3 people there in the Fulton County Jail. What is behind Mo Ivory's intent here to do that? Angelique Proctor standing by live with the story behind the story. Angelique?
Well, good afternoon to you, Tom. Fulton County Commissioner Mo Ivory says that she bailed 3 defendants out of the Fulton County Jail because she is just tired of the overcrowding that has plagued this institution. She said she wanted to do something to make a difference, and she decided this was something that she could do. Well, she has taken to social media to post what she did on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Snapchat. The videos have gone viral with hundreds of thousands of people liking it, sharing it, and some even wanting to do the same thing themselves, wanting to bail people out. Just take a look at what she's done.
I'm at the Fulton County Jail, and oftentimes when we come here, we feel so helpless. We don't know what we can do until some real change happens. But something I know I can do is that I can get some people out of jail that have very low bonds.
Yeah, a lot of them Haven't gone to trial yet either.
Said she did this not as a gimmick or for publicity, but she did this as a decent human being who wants desperately to see some change here at the jail.
Physically affected. The smell, the conditions, just what jail is, right? And then we have a crisis at our jail. It's overcrowded. So that bothers me all the time. So this particular day, I heard that there were a lot of people that were in there for $85 bonds. That sort of came up, that we have a lot of people in here right now that are on $85 or $150 or less. And I said, well, what can I do to decrease that? Because that day we had 70 people sleeping on the floor. So why would anybody who has an $85 bond not be given the opportunity to get out? Obviously, that person has not done something violent enough that, or even violent at all, that requires them to be in there for $85. Because if you raped somebody or murdered somebody or robbed somebody, your bond wouldn't be $85, right? We're talking about very simple, nonviolent offenses.
Now, the commissioner says, as for her critics who say she's only doing this for publicity, well, she said she actually did this last summer.
I respect
and didn't say a word about it. She says she's doing this because she has conviction and she wants to see the number of people at the Fulton County Jail reduced.
It's not a gimmick at all. I'm trying to educate people about things they don't know about. The overwhelming response I got on my social media was, thank you for telling us. Thank you for letting us know this exists. People don't know anything about the way our county works on the inside. You know why? Because nobody's been telling them. I'm an educator. That's what I've spent my life doing. I'm a professor.
We've been talking about it.
And so I'm not doing something brand new. To all the people going, oh, she's using her social media, whatever. I've been on social media. I've been educating way before I was ever an elected official.
Again, a lot of y'all are seeing through. Well, I won't say seeing through it. At least these people got out, I guess. A lot of y'all are seeing that Mo is running here. She is on the ballot for this upcoming primary and this upcoming election. So keep that in mind as you see this. But I do think the idea is right that something has to be done. But when you see it coming from someone who's on the board of commissioners, then you have to ask what's been done. We've seen how Mo has handled the situation with the raid here in Fulton County over the 2020 elections. It hasn't been great, but her point was well taken. And I think we need to see some movement. So I guess we can give credit to the board of commissioners for putting something in place. Is it going to be effective? We will have to wait and see. Let me know what you guys think in the comments in the chat. And we're actually going to get into the exclusive interview, the full interview that Pat Labat did with Atlanta News First here, where he talks more and gives more insight into what was going on in this situation. But we'll get into it in a second. Thank y'all again for the love. Excuse me. There's 1,200 of y'all in the building. My goodness. Thank you to everybody who's in here. Listen, I get the point. I get the point that she was trying to make and that she's actually putting some action behind her words. I'm sure she had to do extensive research into who she was paying the bond for, because, you know, you don't want to pay the bond for someone who may not be convicted of or who may not be charged with a nonviolent crime that ends up doing something else. So it seems kind of risky to me, but shout out to Mo for putting her money where her mouth is. I guess you can't be mad at it. What are y'all saying? And many have not gone to trial yet. That's the biggest thing. There was a person who got arrested. Well, multiple cases we talked about. A person who got arrested was in Fulton County Jail, was in Rice Street for a couple of days and ended up dying and being killed before he even went to trial, before he got to talk to a judge. And this has happened multiple times in Rice Street. Again, I'm not just saying this. We've seen it happen. So a lot of it has to do with the conditions. A lot of it has to do with the staffing. We talked about the staffing issues as reported by the Department of Justice. A lot of the policies that are and aren't in place with Rice Street Jail. It's sad, man. It needs to be fixed. It needs to be fixed, and hopefully they continue to work on it. I think I have to sneeze. Excuse me. Yeah, Ella says blah, blah, blah. It's a lot of talk. It's an election here, so we're going to hear a lot of people talking. Disappointed, to be honest, disappointed in Stacy Abrams. I thought for sure she was going to at least hold some accountability, because dang, Stacy, you were affected by 2020 election too. Either way, we'll get into it. So let's get into this full interview from Patrick Labat, the sheriff in Fulton County, because he is somewhat upset about how the situation with the the plan to lower the population of Rice Street Jail was implemented by the Board of Commissioners. Now, this plan was brought up by Rob Pitts, and obviously we're in an election year, so there's a reason that happened here. I won't deny that. But the 5-point plan was brought up by Rob Pitts. He said, hey, this is the plan I came up with. Sheriff Patrick Labat said, I've never even seen this plan. What are you talking about? What are we doing? So now he had to do a whole interview and press conference about how he's so upset that his someone went over his head to come up with this plan to lower the population in the Rice Street Jail. Let's hear it from Atlanta News First, and I want to know what y'all think about this in the comments and in the chat.
Sure. First, did you know about this 5-point plan before we saw it yesterday?
Nobody in my agency, no one in the sheriff's office knew what the 5-point plan was.
What was your plan, Pat?
Sit there for a second.
That's what I want to know.
Sheriff. Your mission to oversee. Are we good? Okay. Okay. You are the sheriff. Your mission to oversee the jail, the operations at the jail, and this 5-point plan is to help reduce the population at the jail. Wouldn't you think that you should see what some of these initiatives?
Well, I certainly believe there should have been a lot more communication. And if you delve down into the 5 bullet points, they weren't even planned. If you delve down into that, 3 of them we already do. And so, again, once we align ourselves a little better in terms of communication, people will have all the facts.
At least he's not throwing them under the bus.
And, Commissioner Khadija, why do you think now? Why do you think this is happening? We certainly heard some murmurings yesterday from other commissioners speculating on why this is coming up right now. Do you know why this is coming up right now?
I have no confirmation as to why. Keep in mind some of the things that we talked about yesterday in terms of improving or reducing the population are things that we've talked about for over 5 years. And so I have my suspicions.
Oh, here comes the COVID conversation.
The betterment of the county, the things that we can certainly move forward. It's important to note that the sheriff's office, we've reached out multiple times to every commissioner. As a matter of fact, we have a standing meeting, a meeting invite, and there are several commissioners who refuse to attend.
Okay, wait, actually, I want to pull up this 5-point. I have it. I'm just going to ask you. I
No
can't
worries.
remember which 3. All right, so the 5 points loosely are expanding the diversion center usage. Is that something you guys are doing now?
So that's something we are encouraging individuals that come to the agency. In other words, whether it be a police department, they have closed ranks and should have by now in terms of who they will take to the diversion center. The Atlanta Police Department, Chief Sherbaum and I had a great conversation earlier this week, and they're doing just that.
Lots of conversations,
to
guys.
Take more people, and they've been pretty successful in doing that.
Yeah, they're the lead agency right now that are diverting folks. The second one was increasing the use of ankle monitors.
Again, should have never been decreased. All right. I do understand that there's been a wide berth and maybe that had gotten out of control, but that ankle monitor program was in place long before I became sheriff, and we reduced it a little too quickly as a county. And so ultimately, it's a good idea. And you heard yesterday, Madam DA is on board with that. We just have to do it in a way that does not increase danger in our community.
The third was adding court text notifications just to get people in court more regularly.
I am pro technology. We've been asking for technology such as this for 5 years. And so I did have an opportunity to talk to Madam Clerk. And so they're trying to expand their jury notification and several of the other technological advances to include this.
Decreasing bond
We're working,
amounts
we're
for
talking.
low-level offenders.
We've already done that for the past almost year and a half. We have eliminated some bonding fees so that people have an opportunity to do that. We've worked with different outside entities to put different monies on individuals' commissary so that they can choose to make their own bond. So we've done that and done it very successfully.
So like a grant.
To be able to extend that, again, we're not going to reinvent the wheel, but ultimately a place for us to collaborate.
And then extraditing non-local offenders. I think you'll call them
foreign holds. That one's a bit off-center, right? Maybe missed the mark a little bit. Ultimately, cases have to be adjudicated. And so we do have the ability to put people out on loan, for instance, if there's a higher case. For instance, if there's a murder case in Clayton County or Gwinnett or Cobb, then we'll put that person out on loan. But you have to finish the case here in order for us to make that extradition.
I just looked at the operations report from the county manager. The latest one they had was from last month in terms of public data, how many people are in county's custody right now. You would obviously have a better idea, but it's just south of 3,000. And Chairman Pitts is saying with these bullet points, we can drop the population like that down by almost 1,000. Is that true based on his calculations?
That's a far reach. And so there are other things that we were working on had we been contacted that we could, in combination, probably reach 700 or 800 people. But ultimately, I believe that's a little pie in the sky.
From that operations report, there were something like 70 people are sleeping on the ground right now. And I think that's a big concern from the public. It's just kind of understanding, right, we're going through an overcrowding issue. And to hear that people are on pallets, is that number accurate? Is it still around 70? And what are you doing to help kind of adjust that?
Here come the excuses.
And I know there's a blitz going on. There was a fire. There are reasons why not all beds can be used, but are you working on getting that number down?
So just from yesterday, that number's down to 58 today. And so we constantly, every day, we focus on how many people are sleeping on floor devices. And ultimately, we haven't, for instance, there been better coordination and really conversations around what we are doing. We have a new agreement with Floyd County, where there are another 30 individuals that can be housed in Floyd County. And so we backfill those spaces with an attempt to really, we had gotten down to 0 votes at one point, 0 floor devices. So I suspect in the next really week to 2 weeks, it will be closer to 5 or 10, and if not, no votes on the floor. But again, that is where the lack of communication from the county administration and the sheriff's office has really hurt us in the long run.
How detrimental to that point about communication and collaboration? We know about the consent decree, and I'm going to talk about your budget in a second, but I think yesterday there was a lot of theater around it, but we have seen theater like that since I've been here, 4+ years, and it seems to be getting in the way of any progress.
It does, and worse than getting in the way of progress, that type of theater encourages the county manager to not return my phone calls. And that's a problem, especially when we have emergency
Y'all got to get it together. Why is it still like this?
That the county manager, whose responsibility it is to broadly take care of the county, return the sheriff's phone call.
Is he not?
And so, no, he's absolutely not.
And now he's missioned with this 5-point
Correct.
plan.
And so I see that, I hope that he will be encouraged to be more thoughtful for whatever the reason he feels as though he can't meet with me without the county attorney, and has said as much. And so to that extent, we will continue to extend an olive branch, but ultimately he has a responsibility, he believes, only for the Board of Commissioners, right? And if not all 7. Again, once we fix this communication problem at a much higher level, I suspect that we'll get better internally as a county.
Okay, in terms of your budget, this is something that you guys also sent out.
He said they won't even talk to him.
Are you funded, from your perspective? We know about the consent decree. We know about the crisis inside the jail. Do you feel like you're funded appropriately to address it?
Absolutely not. We've not been funded properly since 1/1/21 when I was sworn in as sheriff. I've said as much. And what people would like to do is spin the numbers. And what I mean by that is when you look at when we took over as a sheriff's administration, our largest expenditure was medical, but it resided in what's called non-agency funds. And so because it does belong under our funding lines, they put it in there and said, oh, we gave you an increase, right? And specifically, it is Bob Ellis, as well as Commissioner Pitts and Khadijah and Thorne, who would like to say we gave you a raise, when in fact, when you run the numbers, you can't argue with the facts. We actually took a 1% cut and a 3% cut last year. And so they can play with the numbers all they want to, and they can try and make facts, right? It's fake news. And the bottom line is the chairman has actually published in a newsletter something that would assert that we have $234 million that were allocated to the sheriff's office. Absolutely false. It's a lie. And the bottom line is there are 4 or 5 different items, including the consent decree monies, that reside in a different funding line that we have no access to.
Right, let's sit on that point specifically, because consent
So
decree,
who
that's
has access to
it? You're right, I mean, you would know better than me, of course. You can't access that money.
Correct.
It does impact the jail. It of course goes towards addressing the crisis at the jail that now the Justice Department's involved in. So in a way, I'm sure they would argue in the same way, in a way it is towards your department. It's not at your discretion, but it could offset costs that you otherwise would use.
So here's the problem with that thought process. To the county manager's own admission, it's a control factor. And so every week for executive session, we ask that they take into executive session and consider things like officer wellness. We had an officer wellness program, and it was eliminated due to the lack of funding. was never talked about during the budget cycle, and ultimately we could use those monies to make sure that the people that run the jail, the people that run the sheriff's office, the men and women that come to work every day had some sense of wellness, whether it be physical or mental, but we can't get funding for it. And so there's technology that we ask for every single day, and we go into executive session. And so to that point, we don't have a line of sight into what happens in executive session, but ultimately, we've not been approved for anything that will be helpful to us specifically in that manner. So you can say that it actually is for the jail, but when you control the purse strings, you control the things that you don't get.
Okay, so where's the money going then? That's what we need to see. If you're going to continue to say, not enough money, not enough money, not enough money. Fannie Willis is going to say, not enough money, I don't have enough money, we don't have enough staff. Like, do you guys just want limited amounts of money to be able, where is the money going? And we've looked at this and we've covered this on the channel. I'm not going to get into it, but you hear him even being held accountable by the reporter in this case saying, listen, there's some money allocated here. Where is that going? How are you guys using this to fund these types of initiatives and programs? And the sheriff's like, well, no, you can't, you're mischaracterizing it because, you know, that money is actually set over here and we don't have access to certain funds. Excuse. They're not calling me. They have to have their attorney there. When are we actually going to do something? It doesn't sound like there's a sense of urgency at all. I'm tired of it. We're going to continue to talk about it here and let you guys know that we need to either make some changes, get down there, have the right conversations, not just talking for talking's sake to say you check the box, or we need to get somebody else in there. Let me know what you guys think in the comments in the chat. Thank y'all again for the love. We got 1,200 folks, 1,200 of you fine folks up in here showing love. We've got to talk about a very, very, very interesting subject here. This one I wanted to save for last because this is something that Amy actually brought to my attention that I thought was truly shocking. And I want to hear y'all's thoughts on this. Now, if you are not a fan of the President of the United States, if you just want to see him out of office in general, you're going to be biased on this topic. So just, you might need to sit this one out. But if you are still against the president, you don't like him, you want to see somebody else in there in the next term, then you can stay and hang out for this conversation. Because I really want to know what you guys think about this. Because I was shocked to hear that this was even a thing, something that was being considered. And obviously we don't get involved in the politics so much here, but it's going to be interesting. I want to read this one comment as well. I have no problem getting feedback from Mr. Anderson on the jail at the update in the FC. The jail updates will be available when we begin construction in late 2026. Yeah, has that plan been released already? Because I'm not. Yeah, now remember, low information voters reelected Labat and Fannie Willis. I feel like I don't think anybody ran against Labat this last time. Am I right about that? I got to look that up now because I don't remember. I don't know if anyone even, I feel like he ran unopposed, but let me see. Let's go into AI mode. I'm trying to find this out. Because I can't remember. I feel like he did. Yeah, he did. So there was, again, with the Fannie Willis situation, we had Courtney Kramer. I voted for Courtney Kramer. But again, it was going to be hard and difficult for Courtney Kramer to win just because of lack of experience, just because of the timing at which she'd entered the race. It was just going to be tough. And again, as you said, people don't do their research and look into the information of what's going on. So Fannie Willis, black, female, Democrat, Fulton County, people are just going to go check, straight down the ticket. And she was going to win in that case. So it was a little bit different. Now, I will say Courtney Kramer did get a significant amount of vote, in my opinion, a surprising amount of the vote in Fulton County. So Fani Willis could be in trouble in the next election. But yes, in the 2024 general election, Pat Labat ran unopposed. He just had a tough primary, so I didn't think I'm glad my memory's working a little bit. I do vote sometimes. I'm kidding. I should not say this after everything I've been covering. I vote, guys. All right, chill out. So let's talk about this conversation. Could the president of the United States be the first ever 3-term president? This is just a fun conversation we're going to have. I think you're going to hear from the president himself. He doesn't think that's going to happen, even in his, possibly not in his lifetime. And especially considering the timing and of how things move and the time at which things move, it's most likely not going to happen. But there's an interesting conversation to have here about whether this is something that should be in place and what that would look like. I really want you guys to comment and in the chat and let me know what you think about this situation specifically, because I find it absolutely fascinating, and I'll give my thoughts on this in a second. But let's hear from the president when this was first brought up in an interview he did with NBC News. Check it out.
The Trump organization is selling hats that say Trump 2028.
Yeah.
Are you seriously considering a third term, Mr. President, even though it's prohibited by the Constitution? Or is this about staying politically viable?
I will say this. So many people want me to do it. I have never had requests so strong as that. But it's something that, to the best of my knowledge, you're not allowed to do. I don't know if that's constitutional that they're not allowing you to do it or anything else, but there are many people selling the 2028 hat. But this is not something I'm looking to do. I'm looking to have 4 great years and turn it over to somebody, ideally a great Republican to carry it forward. But I think we're going to have 4 years, and I think 4 years is plenty of time to do something really spectacular.
The Constitution does prohibit it. Some of your allies are pretty serious about this, though, Mr. President. I've spoken to them. They say they are coming up with potential ways.
Well,
obviously, the biggest one would be a constitutional amendment.
That's because they like the job I'm doing, and it's a compliment.
Has anyone in an official capacity presented you with, sir, here are some ideas by which you could actually get a constitutional amendment?
Well, in a capacity of being a big supporter, many people have said different things, but I'm not looking at that.
The Trump organization.
All right, so he's like, nah, I don't know if that's going to happen. Amy actually posted about this on X and gave a great breakdown of what this would look like. And I'm going to read it here. Shout out to Amy. If you don't follow her, make sure you follow her on X at @IamyLee on X. And she says this: a constitutional amendment has been introduced in the House to let President Trump serve a 3rd term. Representatives drop H.J. Res 29 to update the 22nd Amendment, allowing up to 3 elected terms, no more than 2 in a row. Okay, so here's the breakdown of what it would look like. While it is a real proposal, it has a very specific structure and a steep hill to climb before it could become law. The resolution aims to modify the 22nd Amendment rather than appeal it entirely. Here's how it would work. A 3-term limit. It would increase the total number of terms a person can be elected president from 2 to 3. It specifies that a person cannot be elected to a 3rd term if they have already served 2 consecutive terms. Because President Trump is currently the only living president to serve non-consecutive terms, this specific wording would allow him to run again in 2028, while former presidents Obama, Bush, and Clinton would remain ineligible. Changing the U.S. Constitution is famously difficult and has only happened 27 times in history. To succeed, H.J. Res 29 would need to get congressional approval, a 2/3 majority vote in both the House of Representatives and the Senate, state ratification, approval by 3/4 of the states, 38 out of 50, usually through their state legislators. Again, a long process. This isn't the first time the 22nd Amendment has been challenged. Since its ratification in 1951, following FDR's 4 terms, dozens of resolutions have been introduced by both Democrats and Republicans to either repeal or to change it. Presidents like Ronald Reagan and Bill Clinton also expressed that they felt the 2-term limit was a restriction on voters' rights, though No serious attempts have ever been made in the past toward the initial proposal stages. As of right now, there is no scheduled date for a vote on HJ Res 29. While the resolution was introduced and has gained a lot of attention, the legislative process for a constitutional amendment is slow and deliberate. The bill was referred to the House Judiciary Committee shortly after it was introduced. Before a full vote can happen on the House floor, the committee must first mark up the bill and vote to report it out. All right, so we've got some more breakdown from a legal expert here who's going to give us the likelihood of this happening and also what that would look like. And I want to know what you guys think in the comments in the chat. Is this something you would be interested in or like to see pass? I said I was going to talk about my opinion on this personally. I think it makes sense. If you have a president that runs, he gets 4 years in, and then he's not in again. And then you have somebody else that becomes the president. And then right after that, he runs and wins again. You're basically having the people say, okay, let's give him a chance. We didn't like him that time. And then the second time he comes back, you say, okay, well, you know what? We were wrong. We want you back. He should be allowed to run his second term. I don't see the harm in it. This could be a slippery slope into other things, which we're not going to get into, but let's check out what the legal experts have to say.
Legal scholars are raising concerns after President Trump said he's considering a third term. The 22nd Amendment explicitly limits a president to 2 elected terms or 10 years, saying, quote, no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice, and no person who has held the office of president or acted as president for more than 2 years of a term to which some other person was elected president shall be elected to the office of the president more than once. For more on that, let's bring in ABC contributor Kim Whaley, legal expert and professor at the University of Baltimore Law School. So, Kim, that was a lot of words that I just read, but break this down. Is there any wiggle room in here, in the language you see in the Constitution, for President Trump to seek a third term?
Well, Diane, there's always wiggle room for creative lawyers. And I think the argument is that the word elected to 2 terms maximum means literally elected, not served. So the argument he's saying is that he can serve more than 2 terms, so long as he's not elected at the top of the ticket. For example, if he is elected as a vice president, J.D. Vance as president could resign and he could move to the position of president. That's not being elected. The problem with that is the 12th Amendment says specifically that if someone's ineligible to be president, they cannot be a vice president. But at the end of the day, this doesn't really hinge on what the Constitution says. It's more on, if the Republican Party decides to put him on the ballot on a state-by-state basis, who's going to stop that process? There's no mechanism. If Donald Trump, is willing to push the boundaries of the Constitution, if the Republican Party doesn't come in and stop him, I think this is this is feasible. This could actually happen.
Which is crazy.
Now, many Trump allies, including Steve Bannon, have pointed to the Constitution not using the word consecutive when defining presidential terms. Is that a loophole?
I think that's a pretty weak argument. I mean, it doesn't say anything about it having to be consecutive terms. And if you think about it as well from an originalist standpoint, right, a conservative standpoint, and you think about why do we even have the 22nd Amendment? It was because Franklin Delano Roosevelt served 4 terms in office or was elected 4 times, and people from both parties didn't like that idea. There had been many attempts since the founding of the Constitution to put a cap on presidential terms, and they did that in 1951.
Now, just a few minutes ago, I asked Republican Congressman David Kustoff if he would support Trump serving a 3rd term. He didn't say yes, but he also didn't say no. What happens if the president tries any of these tactics?
Well, that interview I heard, and I think it's good news that he believes it would take a constitutional amendment to allow that. But if he got on the ballot, I don't know that the Supreme Court would kick him off. We saw this in the last election. I believe Section 3 of the 14th Amendment made him ineligible because of January 2021 and the insurrection. But the Supreme Court said, we're not going to stop the Republican Party from choosing who they want to be at the top of the ticket. So with lots of things that are happening with Donald Trump, the question is who is going to stand in the way of what sounds like an extra constitutional agenda here.
All right, Kim Whaley, thank you.
Interesting. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments in the chat. Is it likely going to happen? Probably not, but I think it's fun to talk about, and I want to know y'all's thoughts on this. Again, if you don't like the president already, you don't want to see this happen. But if you do you think from a constitutional standpoint, do you think this is something that you think would be a good move or a bad move? Let me know what y'all think. Thank you again for the love. Shout out to everyone who hung out with us on this show. Wow, y'all are awesome. Let me see what some of you are saying, and then I'll let y'all go free. Noem could use a little. Oh man, y'all are hilarious. I'm not gonna read that one out loud. I appreciate you. Yeah, we are sponsoring your buck dance mission to Washington D.C. You in the lead. Oh, y'all think we should go? Oh, I'm not gonna use the lead's government name. You think it should be ClassE and the lead attorney 2028? Is that what we doing? Okay. I'll be vice president though. I'm gonna let the lead attorney. He's a way better speaker and orator than I am. So I'll be the vice president. He could be the president. I ain't trying to do all that. All right, y'all. We're gonna get up out of here. Thank you all again for the love. If you haven't yet, like the video on your way out, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any time that we go live or drop a new video. We'll be dropping content for you guys throughout the weekend. And of course, we'll be back live this coming Monday. Hope y'all have a great rest of your weekend. And as always, you know what to do. Keep growing, keep pushing, keep it classy. We gone. Peace. Shout out to the lead.